In the heart of Chicago, where basketball dreams fill the air like prayers, 11-year-old Marcus Davenport fights a battle far tougher than any championship game. His hospital room at Mercy Children's Hospital is decorated with Chicago Bulls. Posters, his thin fingers clutching a basketball card featuring the legendary Michael Jordan in mid-flight. For 8 months, leukemia has been stealing Marcus's strength, but not his spirit or his love for the game. When a social media campaign catches the attention of the greatest basketball player of all time, what follows isn't just a celebrity hospital visit. It's the beginning of an extraordinary journey that will transform both lives forever. As Jordan steps into room 305, neither he nor Marcus can imagine how their chance meeting will spark a movement that changes how we think about courage, legacy, and what it truly means to be a champion. Marcus Davenport's fingers traced the edge of his Chicago Bulls blanket as he watched the highlight reel for the 10th time that day. The small tablet screen glowed in the dimly lit hospital room, illuminating his thin face with its bluish light. On the screen, Michael Jordan soared through the air, suspended in that magical moment between earth and heaven that made people believe a man could fly. And Jordan, with the spectacular move! The announcer's voice crackled through the tiny speaker. Marcus mouthed the words along with him. He knew every call, every play by heart. "Marcus, it's time for your medicine," Nurse Gabriella said, entering, with a small paper cup of pills. "Just one more minute," Marcus pleaded, his eyes never leaving the screen. MJ's about to hit the shot against the Jazz, the famous one from '98. Nurse Gabriella smiled, placing the medicine on the bedside table. "The one where he pushes off on Russell?" Marcus looked up, surprised. "You know basketball?" "My dad never missed a Bulls game," she said. "I grew up watching his airness." Marcus grinned, revealing the gap where his front tooth had fallen out last month. For a moment, the 11-year-old looked like any ordinary kid, not one who had spent the last 8 months at Mercy Children's Hospital battling leukemia. "1 minute," Nurse Gabriella said, tapping her watch. "Then medicine deal?" Marcus nodded, already absorbed back into the game. On screen, Jordan crossed over, pushed slightly, though Marcus would never admit it was a push, and rose up for the shot that would secure his 6th championship. The ball swished through the net just as a knock sounded at the door. Marcus's parents entered, his father carrying a small package wrapped in red paper. "How's our MVP today?" Robert Davenport asked, ruffling his son's thinning hair. Once thick and curly like his father's, the chemotherapy had taken most of it. "I'm okay," Marcus said, though the dark circles under his eyes told a different story. "What's that?" Elaine Davenport, her smile warm despite the worry lines that had become permanent fixtures on her face, sat on the edge of the bed. "A little something from Coach Wilson and the team." Marcus tore open the package to reveal a miniature basketball hoop with suction cups and a soft foam ball. "So you can practice your jumper," his father said. With careful hands, Robert attached the hoop to the wall opposite Marcus's bed, positioning it at the perfect height for his son to shoot from sitting position. "Dr. Patel says your blood counts are better today," Elaine said, organizing the get well cards on the windowsill. The April sunshine streamed through, catching the dust particles in beams of light. Outside, Chicago was coming alive with spring, the trees near Lake Michigan budding with new life. Marcus barely heard her. He was already practicing with his new hoop, his thin arm launching the foam ball with surprising accuracy. "Davenport for 3, he announced weakly, mimicking the television commentators. The ball bounced off the rim. Rebounds his own miss, drives to the lane, and scores. His parents exchanged a glance, relief washing over their tired faces. It had been weeks since they'd seen this much energy from their son. Later, after his parents left for dinner in the cafeteria, Marcus continued shooting. The rhythmic thump of the ball against the backboard was comforting. He pretended he was at the United Center, thousands of fans chanting his name. In his daydream, Michael Jordan himself watched from courtside, nodding in approval at Marcus's perfect form. And with 5 seconds left, Davenport has the ball. Marcus whispered, narrating his fantasy. Bulls down by 1. The crowd holds its breath. Davenport dribbles, looks for an opening. 3 seconds! He pulls up for the jumper. Marcus rose from his bed, his legs wobbling beneath his thin frame. For just a moment, he wanted to feel what it was like to take a real jump shot, the way Jordan did in all those videos. He steadied himself, aimed, and jumped. The room spun suddenly. The foam ball left his fingers, but Marcus never saw if it went in. The floor seemed to rush up to meet him, the linoleum cold against his cheek. A strange buzzing filled his ears, drowning out the beeping monitors. Through blurry eyes, he saw. The nurses rushing in heard their urgent voices calling for Dr. Patel. Strong hands lifted him back onto the bed. An oxygen mask covered his face. BP's dropping, someone said. Get his parents from the cafeteria. Dr. Patel's face appeared above him, her expression calm, but her eyes serious. Marcus, can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me. Marcus managed a weak squeeze. Good boy, she said. You're going to be okay. Just rest now. As consciousness slipped away, Marcus wasn't thinking about the fall or the scared looks on the nurses' faces. In his mind, he was still on that imaginary court, the ball arcing through the air toward the basket. And somewhere in the stands, Michael Jordan was watching, waiting to see if the shot would fall. The steady beep of monitors filled the hospital, room where Marcus lay unconscious. Elaine Davenport sat beside her son's bed, her eyes red-rimmed from hours of crying. She held his small hand in hers, careful not to disturb the IV line taped to his skin. His vitals have stabilized, Dr. Patel explained, reviewing the chart at the foot of the bed. But this episode concerns me. The leukemia is advancing more aggressively than we anticipated. Robert Davenport stood by the window, his broad shoulders hunched with worry. Outside, the Chicago skyline glittered in the evening light, oblivious to the family's pain inside Mercy Children's Hospital. What are our options? He asked, his voice hoarse. Dr. Patel's eyes softened with compassion. We can try a more intensive chemotherapy protocol, but given how his body responded to the current treatment... She paused, choosing her words carefully. I believe we should also prepare for other possibilities. The weight of her unspoken message hung in the air. Elaine's grip tightened on Marcus's hand. How long? She whispered. Possibly months. Maybe weeks, Dr. Patel answered gently. I'm so sorry. After the doctor left, silence enveloped the room, broken only by the rhythmic beeping that confirmed their son still fought for life. Robert crossed to his wife, placing his hands on her shoulders. We should call Pastor Mike, he suggested. But Elaine shook her head. Not yet. She looked at the wall where the mini basketball hoop hung, the foam ball resting on the floor where it had fallen. Did you see him today, when he got that hoop? For a few minutes, he was our Marcus again. Robert nodded, remembering the brief spark of joy in their son's eyes. Basketball gives him something to live for, Elaine continued. If these are his last days... Her voice broke, but she forced herself to continue. Then I want them filled with what he loves. 3 days later, Marcus awoke. Weaker than before, but alert enough to ask about the Bulls game he had missed. His father had recorded it, and they watched together, Marcus drifting in and out of sleep as the Bulls lost to the Nets. "They need better defense," Marcus mumbled. "Jordan wouldn't have let that happen." The mention of his hero gave Elaine an idea. That night, after Marcus had fallen asleep, she sat in the hospital cafeteria with her laptop open, a cold cup of coffee forgotten beside her. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as she created a social media account. "What are you doing?" Robert asked, returning with fresh coffee. "Making his dream come true," Elaine answered, turning the screen so he could see. The page was titled, "Marcus Meets Jordan," with a photo of their son in his Bulls jersey from last Halloween, before the diagnosis had taken his strength and his hair. "Elaine," Robert sighed, "I know you want to help, but Michael Jordan? That's impossible. He probably gets thousands of requests like this." "I have to try," she insisted. "If Marcus is going to—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "He deserves to meet his hero. Just once." Robert wanted to argue, to protect her from another heartbreak. But the determination in her eyes stopped him. Instead, he pulled up a chair. "What can I do to help?" The next morning, Elaine visited Marcus's elementary school, Franklin Elementary. The principal, Mrs. Gonzalez, welcomed her with a warm hug. "How's our star player?" she asked, leading Elaine to her office. "Fighting," Elaine answered simply. "That's actually why I'm here." She explained her idea to Mrs. Gonzalez, who immediately called in the school's technology teacher, Mr. Pham. Together, they helped Elaine refine her social media campaign, showing her how to create effective hashtags and reach wider audiences. "The 5th grade class can make posters," Mrs. Gonzalez suggested, "and we can mention it in our school newsletter." "And maybe the basketball team," Mr. Pham added. By afternoon, Marcus Meets Jordan was spreading through the school community. Coach Wilson, who had sent the mini-hoop, recorded a video with the basketball team, each player sharing why Marcus deserved to meet his hero. "He never missed practice," one boy said. "Even when he was getting tired from being sick," added another. "He's the bravest kid I know," Coach Wilson concluded, his voice thick with emotion. Michael Jordan inspired a generation with his courage on the court. Now, he has the chance to meet someone with real courage. Courage in the game of life. The video was uploaded that evening. By morning, it had been shared 1,000 times. Local businesses in their Chicago neighborhood began displaying Hachutwan's Marcus Meets Jordan signs in their windows. A community that had always supported their own was rallying around the Davenport family. 3 days later, WGN News contacted Elaine. They wanted to interview Marcus for their evening broadcast. Dr. Patel hesitated, concerned about the excitement tiring her patient, but eventually agreed to a short segment. The reporter, Tamika Johnson, set up her equipment in Marcus's room, where New Bulls posters now covered nearly every inch of wall space. Gifts from well-wishers who had heard about the campaign. "Are you nervous?" Tamika asked Marcus before they began filming. Marcus shook his head. "I talk about Michael Jordan all the time. It's easy." The interview was brief, just 5 minutes to protect Marcus's energy. Tamika asked about his favorite Jordan moments, his love of basketball, and what meeting his hero would mean to him. Marcus's answer, given without hesitation, would soon touch hearts across Chicago and beyond. "I just want to show Mr. Jordan my jump shot before I go to heaven," he said simply. "Mom says my form is almost perfect now. I've been practicing a lot." He pointed to the mini-hoop. "I can make 8 out of 10 free throws. That's almost as good as Dennis Rodman was." The small joke, delivered with such innocence, brought tears to Tamika's eyes off camera. When the segment aired that evening, viewers across Chicago reached for their phones, sharing the story with the simple message, "Let's make this happen." In the hospital room, unaware of how far his words had already traveled, Marcus fell asleep, clutching his prized possession. A basketball card featuring Michael Jordan in mid-flight, defying gravity just as Marcus was determined to defy his diagnosis. The Florida morning sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the spacious office where Michael Jordan sat reviewing blueprints. His home in Jupiter, Florida, was a sanctuary, far from the spotlight that had followed him throughout his legendary career. At 59, Jordan still commanded attention with his presence, though silver now peppered his closely cropped hair. "These look good," he told the architect across the desk. "But I want the courts to be regulation size. No cutting corners to save space." The Jordan Youth Basketball Center would be his newest project, a state-of-the-art facility designed to give underprivileged kids in Chicago a safe place to play and learn the game he loved. A knock at the door interrupted them. Carlos Mendez, Jordan's personal assistant for the past 7 years, entered with a tablet in hand. "Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Jordan," Carlos said, "but there's something you should see." Jordan nodded to the architect. "Give us a minute." When they were alone, Carlos handed Jordan the tablet. "This story is getting a lot of attention in Chicago. Thought you might want to be aware." Jordan watched the WGN news segment, his expression unreadable. The camera focused on a frail boy in a hospital bed, surrounded by Bulls memorabilia. Despite his condition, the child's eyes lit up when he spoke about basketball. When the reporter asked what meeting Michael Jordan would mean to him, the boy's simple answer cut straight to Jordan's heart. "I just want to show Mr. Jordan my jump shot before I go to heaven." Carlos watched his boss carefully. In their years together, he'd learned to read the subtle shifts in Jordan's demeanor that others might miss. The slight tightening around the eyes, the momentary stillness that meant something had affected him deeply. "His name is Marcus Davenport," Carlos explained. 11 years old. Leukemia. The doctors have given him weeks, maybe months. Jordan remained silent, replaying the video. He noticed details others might miss. The proper form when the boy demonstrated his shooting technique from the bed. The genuine knowledge when he spoke about historic games. "The hashtag is trending in Chicago," Carlos continued. "Lots of local support. His school, community businesses, even some current Bulls players have shared it." Jordan set down the tablet and walked to the window. Outside, palm trees swayed in the gentle breeze, so different from the windswept streets of Chicago, where he had become a legend. His mind drifted to memories of his father, James Jordan, whose murder in 1993 had shattered his world. He remembered the emptiness, the sense that the ground beneath his feet had disappeared. "Clear my schedule," Jordan said finally, still looking out the window. "We're going to Chicago tomorrow." "All of it?" Carlos asked, already mentally calculating. "What would need to be rescheduled?" "You have the meeting with Nike executives and—" "All of it," Jordan confirmed, turning back to face him. "And find out which doctors are treating the boy. I want to speak with them tonight." Hours later, after the architect had left and night had fallen over Jupiter, Jordan sat in his home office on a conference call with Dr. Patel from Mercy Children's Hospital in Chicago. "I appreciate your taking the time, Dr. Patel," Jordan said, his deep voice serious. "I want to understand exactly what Marcus is facing." Dr. Patel explained the medical details, the aggressive form of leukemia, the failed treatments, the limitations now facing them. Jordan listened intently, asking pointed questions that surprised the doctor with their insight. "My foundation has funded several pediatric cancer research projects," he explained. "You learn the terminology." Mr. Jordan, Dr. Patel said carefully, I should be clear that Marcus's condition is very fragile. Any visit would need to be brief, controlled. I understand, Jordan replied, and I respect your guidance on this. My goal is to give him a bright spot, not to complicate his care. After ending the call with Dr. Patel, Jordan made another, this time to his former teammate and longtime friend, Scottie Pippen. Scottie, he said when the call connected, remember how we used to talk about using our platform for something meaningful? I need your help with something important. As Jordan explained the situation, his mind was already forming a plan. Something beyond the usual hospital visit, beyond signing autographs and taking photos. If Marcus Davenport had only a short time left, Jordan wanted to give him something that would live on, even when the boy could not. This isn't just about making a dying kid happy for an afternoon, Jordan told Pippen. It's about leaving a legacy. Chatufi. Speaking with Pippen, Jordan made similar calls to Dennis Rodman and their former coach, Phil Jackson. Each agreed immediately to his proposal. By midnight, as the Florida coast was bathed in moonlight, the blueprint for Marcus's surprise was taking shape. A plan worthy of the strategic mind that had dominated basketball courts for decades. Carlos appeared at the office door with travel details. The jet is fueled and ready for tomorrow morning. We'll land at Midway at 11:30 Chicago time. I've arranged for a car to take us directly to the hospital. Good, Jordan said, glancing at the iTour tablet where Marcus's interview still played on a loop. And Carlos, one more thing. Find out the boy's jersey size. I want something waiting for him. Authentic, with his name on the back. Carlos nodded, making a note. Consider it done. After Carlos left, Jordan remained at his desk, studying Marcus's face on the screen. There was something in the boy's eyes that reminded him of himself as a child. A determination that transcended physical limitations, a pure love for the game that had nothing to do with fame or fortune. We're coming, Marcus, Jordan whispered to the empty room. Just hold on a little longer. Outside his window, stars dotted the Florida sky, the same stars visible from a hospital room in Chicago where a boy dreamed of meeting his hero, unaware that at that very moment, Michael Jordan was planning not just to meet those expectations, but to soar far beyond them, just as he had done throughout his legendary career. The morning sun had barely risen over Chicago when Marcus opened his eyes. His body ached more than usual, the aftermath of yesterday's fall. The chemo treatments were taking a greater toll now, making even the simple act of lifting his arm to shoot his foam basketball exhausting. Morning, champion, Nurse Gabriella greeted, entering with his morning medication. Not feeling like practice today? Marcus shook his head slightly. Too tired. That's okay. Everyone needs rest days, she said, adjusting his IV. Even Michael Jordan took breaks. Marcus didn't respond. The mini hoop on the wall seemed to taunt him now, a reminder of what he couldn't do. His mother had spent the night in the recliner beside his bed, and she stirred now, instantly alert, as only parents of sick children can be. "How's my basketball star?" Elaine asked, smoothing his blanket. "Not a star today," Marcus mumbled. "Doctor?" Patel arrived for morning rounds, checking his vitals with practiced efficiency. "Your numbers are holding steady, Marcus. That's good news." But Marcus had been in the hospital long enough to read between the lines. Holding steady wasn't improving. It just meant the inevitable was proceeding as expected. "Can I watch the Bulls?" "Game tonight?" he asked. "Of course," Dr. Patel smiled. "But first, try to eat something at lunch. Deal?" Marcus nodded half-heartedly. Food had lost its appeal months ago, everything tasting like metal since the chemotherapy began. The morning dragged on. His father arrived with fresh pajamas and Marcus's favorite comic books, but even Spider-Man's adventures couldn't hold his interest today. The basketball-shaped clock on the wall seemed to move in slow motion, each tick echoing in the quiet room. At 1 o'clock, Nurse Gabriella returned with surprising news. "Marcus, you have a visitor coming. Dr. Patel has approved a special exception to the usual visiting hours." "Is it Pastor Mike?" Marcus asked, thinking of their church minister who sometimes brought kids from the youth group. "No, someone else," she replied with an unusual smile. "Let's get you freshened up." Despite his protests, Marcus allowed his parents to help him wash his face and change into a clean Bulls t-shirt. His mother even brought out a new Bulls cap that a well-wisher had sent, placing it gently on his head to cover the sparse hair that remained. "There," she said, her voice strangely tight. "Handsome as ever." At 2 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. Marcus expected another nurse or maybe a hospital volunteer. Instead, the door opened to reveal a tall figure that Marcus had seen thousands of times, on posters, in videos, in his dreams, but never in person. Michael Jordan stood in the doorway, larger than life, in a simple black sweater and jeans, carrying a red gift bag with the Bulls logo. Time seemed to stop as Marcus stared, certain he must be hallucinating from his medication. "I heard you have a jump shot you want to show me," Jordan said with his famous smile, stepping into the room. Marcus couldn't speak. Tears filled his eyes as he looked from Jordan to his parents, who were both crying and smiling at the same time. "Is this real?" Marcus finally whispered. Jordan approached the bed, his presence filling the small hospital room. "It's real, Marcus, and this is for you." He handed over the gift bag. With trembling hands, Marcus reached inside and pulled out a Chicago Bulls jersey. Not a replica, but an authentic one. The material heavyweight and premium. He turned it around to see his own name, Davenport, printed. Above the number 23. "You're the only other person I've ever let wear my number," Jordan said with a wink. Marcus clutched the jersey to his chest, overcome with emotion. His parents stood back, watching through tears as their son's greatest wish came true. Jordan pulled up a chair beside the bed, settling in like an old friend visiting. "So, your mom tells me you're a real basketball expert. What do you think about the Bulls' defense this season?" For the next hour, Jordan and Marcus talked basketball. Not as a legend and a fan, but as two people who loved the game. Jordan told stories about his playing days that Marcus had never heard before, the pregame rituals, the jokes in the locker room, the moments of doubt that never made it into the highlight reels. "Were you ever scared?" Marcus asked, his earlier fatigue forgotten in the excitement. "Every game," Jordan admitted, surprising the boy. "But that's the secret, Marcus. Champions aren't people who never get scared. They're people who feel the fear and do what needs to be done anyway." Jordan signed all of Marcus's posters, patiently personalizing each one. When he reached the last item, Marcus's treasured basketball card that he slept with, Jordan paused. "This one's special to you, isn't it?" he asked. Marcus nodded. "It's the first Jordan card I ever got. Dad found it at a garage sale when I was 6. Instead of just signing it, Jordan carefully placed it in a protective case he brought from his pocket. "Now it'll last forever," he said, handing it back. As the afternoon continued, other hospital staff found excuses to pass by room 305. Word had spread quickly that Michael Jordan himself was visiting. Dr. Patel stopped by to check on her patient, barely containing her own awe as she shook Jordan's hand. His vitals are the best they've been in weeks, she whispered to Elaine in the hallway. I've seen the psychological impact of these visits before, but this is remarkable. Back in the room, Jordan was watching as Marcus demonstrated his shooting, form with the foam ball, offering tips on his release point. You've got natural talent, Jordan said, and Marcus beamed with pride. What was supposed to be a 30-minute visit stretched into 2 hours when a hospital administrator reluctantly appeared to remind them of the visiting hour policies. Jordan checked his watch. Is it dinner time already? He asked. I'm starving. Marcus, you hungry? Before anyone could object, Michael Jordan, 6-time NBA champion, global icon, billionaire businessman, was helping Marcus into a wheelchair, insisting they all head to the cafeteria together. Mr. Jordan, we can have food brought up, the administrator suggested. Nah, Jordan replied with the confidence that had defined his career. Marcus has been in this room too long. A change of scenery will do him good. Right, Dr. Patel? Put on the spot, the doctor considered her patient's condition before nodding. A short trip to the cafeteria should be fine, but not too long. Marcus needs his rest. The unlikely procession made its way down the hospital corridor, Jordan pushing Marcus's wheelchair, Elaine and Robert following in stunned silence, and a growing trail of amazed hospital staff trying to appear professional while witnessing something extraordinary. In the cafeteria, Jordan carried Marcus's tray himself, joking with the food service workers who could barely function through their shock. He selected a table in the corner, creating a small island of normalcy in the sea of stares and whispers that surrounded them. Try the Jell-O, Jordan suggested, taking a bite of his own. Hospital Jell-O is the best. Don't ask me why, it just is. Marcus laughed, a sound his parents hadn't heard in weeks, and took a small bite. For the first time in months, food didn't taste like metal. It tasted like victory. As dinner in the hospital cafeteria concluded, Marcus's energy began to fade. His eyelids grew heavy, the excitement of the day catching up with his fragile body. Jordan noticed immediately. I think someone needs to recharge, he said, glancing at Dr. Patel, who had joined them briefly. She nodded in agreement. Time to get you back to your room, Marcus. But I don't want today to end, Marcus protested weakly, even as he struggled to keep his eyes open. Jordan leaned close to the boy. Who said anything about ending? Champions need rest between quarters. That's how they come back stronger. Instead of hospital staff, Jordan insisted on pushing Marcus's wheelchair back to his room. As they traveled through the hallways, patients and visitors stopped to stare. Some pulled out phones to take pictures, but a subtle head shake from Jordan discouraged them. This moment wasn't for social media, it was just for Marcus. Back in room 305, Jordan helped Marcus back into bed while Elaine arranged the pillows to support her son's thin frame. The new Bulls jersey lay across Marcus's chest, like armor. Mr. Jordan, Marcus said, his voice small with fatigue, thank you for coming. This is the best day of my life. Something flickered across Jordan's face, a coy shadow of emotion quickly controlled. Mine too, Marcus, he said, and those who knew him best would have recognized the rare sound of complete sincerity in his voice. As Marcus settled in, Jordan pulled a chair close to the bed. The busy hospital seemed to quiet around them, as if sensing the importance of what was happening in this ordinary room. Before I go, I want to tell you something I don't talk about much, Jordan said. Robert started to stand, thinking they should give them privacy, but Jordan gestured for the parents to stay. Your mom and dad should hear this too. Jordan leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. When I was playing, people called me fearless. They'd say, Jordan's not afraid of anything. No what? They were wrong. Marcus's eyes widened, fixed on his hero despite his exhaustion. I was scared before every big game, Jordan continued. Game 6 against Utah in '98? The famous shot everyone remembers? My knees were shaking in the locker room beforehand. Really? Marcus whispered, unable to imagine the great Michael Jordan afraid of anything. Really, Jordan confirmed. When my dad died, I was terrified of going back to basketball. I thought I couldn't do it without him watching. Fear is part of life, Marcus, even for champions, especially for champions. Jordan's voice grew softer, more personal. The thing is, being brave isn't about not feeling scared. It's about doing what you need to do even when you are scared. He gestured toward the IV stand, the medical equipment surrounding the bed. What you're doing every day? That takes more courage than anything I ever did on a basketball court. Tears slipped down Elaine's cheeks as she listened. Robert stood, straight-backed by the window, his jaw tight with emotion. You know what else? Jordan continued. Champions never compete alone. I had teammates, coaches, fans. You've got your mom and dad, Dr. Patel, and all these nurses. And now you've got me too. Marcus's hand crept toward Jordan's, and the basketball legend took it without hesitation. The contrast was striking. The large, powerful hand that had held 6 championship trophies now gently holding the small, pale hand of a child fighting for his life. Can I ask you something, Mr. Jordan? Marcus said. Anything, Jordan responded. When you played, did you ever think about what happens after the game ends? The room grew still. It was the question of a child confronting mortality, dressed in the language of sports. Jordan didn't flinch from the depth of the question. I learned that the final buzzer is just the beginning of something new, he said carefully. The game might end, but what you did in that game, how you played, who you helped, the joy you created, that lives on. He pointed to Marcus's chest, just above the Bulls logo on the jersey. The real champions understand that what matters most is right here. The heart you bring to the game. And that doesn't disappear when the game ends. Marcus considered this with the seriousness only children can bring to profound thoughts. I think I understand, he said, finally. As the conversation wound down, Dr. Patel returned to check Marcus's vitals. Your visitor should probably let you rest now, she suggested gently. Jordan stood, stretching his tall frame. The doctor's right, but I'll make you a promise, Marcus Davenport. This isn't goodbye. It's not, Marcus asked, hope lifting his tired voice. No way. I'll be back tomorrow, and I'm bringing a surprise. Marcus's face lit up. What kind of surprise? Jordan smiled, the competitive gleam returning to his eyes. If I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise. But I think you're going to like it. As Jordan prepared to leave, he spoke quietly with Dr. Patel in the hallway, while Elaine helped Marcus settle for the night. Thank you, Dr. Patel said sincerely. I've never seen him so animated. Days like this, they matter more than medicine sometimes. Jordan nodded, looking back at the hospital room. I meant what I said in there. I'm coming back tomorrow, and I'm bringing reinforcements. On the drive back to his hotel, Jordan made several calls, finalizing details for the next day's plan. Carlos listened from the front seat, making notes, and occasionally offering suggestions. The hospital administrator is concerned about disruption, Carlos reported. But Dr. Patel is supportive as long as we follow her guidelines. Make it happen, Jordan directed simply. Whatever it takes. Later that night, alone in his hotel suite overlooking the Chicago skyline, Jordan stood at the window, gazing at Toots, the city where his legend had been born. His phone buzzed with notifications. News of his hospital visit had leaked despite their best efforts. His social media accounts were flooded with messages of support. But Jordan wasn't thinking about public relations or his image. He was thinking about a boy with thinning hair and bright eyes, who saw in him something beyond the trophies and the fame, who saw him as human, fallible, and real. From his bag, Jordan pulled out a small tablet where he'd saved the WGN News segment that had first brought Marcus to his attention. He replayed the boy's simple wish. "I just want to show Mr. Jordan my jump shot before I go to heaven." "You showed me," Jordan whispered to the empty room. "Now, it's my turn to show you something." Outside, Chicago continued its restless pace, unaware that one of its greatest sons had returned with a mission that had nothing to do with basketball, scores and everything to do with the score that truly matters, the impact of one life on another. Morning arrived with a gentle golden glow through the hospital window. Marcus woke earlier than usual, his body still weak, but his spirit energized by yesterday's events. For a moment after opening his eyes, he wondered if it had all been a dream. Michael Jordan visiting, talking with him, promising to return. Then he saw the Bulls jersey with Davenport across the back draped carefully over the visitor chair, and he knew it had been real. "Good morning," Elaine said, noticing her son was awake. She'd spent another night in the recliner, keeping watch over him as mothers of sick children do. "How are you feeling today?" "Better," Marcus answered, and for once it wasn't a lie told to ease her worry. "What time is it?" "Just past 7. Your dad went to get coffee, but he'll be right back." Marcus nodded, his eyes drawn to the clock. If Jordan kept his promise, how many hours until he returned? What surprise could he possibly bring that would top yesterday? Nurse Gabriella arrived with morning medication, surprised to find her patient sitting up, alert. "Someone's looking chipper today," she observed, checking his IV line. "Dr. Patel will be happy to see this." "Michael Jordan is coming back today," Marcus told her, his voice stronger than it had been in weeks. "He promised." The nurse smiled, having witnessed yesterday's extraordinary visit. "Then we better get you ready, shouldn't we? How about a proper shower instead of a bed bath?" By the time Dr. Patel arrived for morning rounds, Marcus was washed, dressed in fresh pajamas, and sitting in his wheelchair rather than lying in bed. The change was remarkable. Not just physically, but in the energy that surrounded him. "Well, this is a pleasant surprise," Dr. Patel said, reviewing his chart. "Your vitals are stronger this morning." "It's because of yesterday," Elaine explained, quietly, while Marcus was distracted looking out the window. "He hasn't been this engaged in months," Dr. Patel nodded, understanding the power of hope. "I've seen the Jordan effect before," she said, "but never quite like this. Let's make the most of it while we can." She approached Marcus with a warm smile. "I hear you have another special visit planned today?" "Mr. Jordan promised he's coming." "Back with a surprise," Marcus confirmed, his eyes bright with anticipation. "Well, in that case, I'm adjusting your treatment schedule. Your next round of meds can wait until this evening." Seeing his mother's concerned look, she added, "Just this once. Special circumstances." The morning passed slowly for Marcus, each minute stretching endlessly. He asked to practice with his mini-hoop, making 10 shots in a row from his wheelchair, a personal record. He ate most of his lunch without prompting, something that hadn't happened in weeks. "Fuel for champions," he explained to his surprised father, echoing words Jordan had used yesterday. By early afternoon, the hospital corridor outside room 305 had been quietly prepared. Extra security personnel, dressed in plain clothes to avoid drawing attention, were stationed at strategic points. The children's ward playroom had been temporarily cleared, though no one would explain why. At 2 o'clock precisely, the elevator at the end of the hall opened. Michael Jordan stepped out, but he wasn't alone. Behind him walked a man Marcus immediately recognized from countless highlight videos and his cherished basketball card collection. Scottie Pippen, Jordan's legendary teammate. And behind Pippen, his hair now more subdued than in his playing days, but his presence still unmistakable, was Dennis Rodman. Completing the group was a tall, dignified man with silver hair and an aura of calm authority, Phil Jackson, the coach who had guided the Bulls to 6 championships. Marcus's jaw dropped as the procession made its way down the hall toward his room. Nurses stopped their rounds, doctors emerged from patient rooms, and administrative staff found sudden reasons to visit the children's ward. Jordan knocked on the open door, though he could clearly see Marcus watching from his wheelchair. "I told you I was bringing a surprise," he said with a grin. "Hi, Marcus," Scottie Pippen said, stepping into the room. "Michael tells me you're the real MVP around here. The toughest player in Chicago," Rodman added, his voice gentler than his public persona would suggest. Phil Jackson approached last, offering his hand to Marcus with the dignity he'd always shown his players. "It's an honor to meet a true warrior," he said. Robert Davenport stood speechless by the window, while Elaine wiped tears from her eyes. Their modest hospital room now contained the greatest basketball dynasty in history, all focused on their son. "I brought some friends who wanted to meet you," Jordan explained unnecessarily. "I hope that's okay." Marcus could only nod, overwhelmed by the moment. "We also brought something else," Jordan continued, signaling to someone in the hallway. Carlos appeared, wheeling in a portable basketball hoop. Not a mini version like the one on Marcus's wall, but a proper adjustable hoop that could be raised or lowered. "The play area downstairs has been set up," Jordan explained to Marcus's parents. "If Dr. Patel approves, we thought Marcus might like to show us his skills on a real court." "Really?" Marcus whispered, hope making his voice tremble. Dr. Patel, who had been notified in advance, appeared in the doorway. 20 minutes, she said firmly, and he stays in the wheelchair for most of it. But yes, he can go. The procession that moved through the hospital now was even more remarkable than yesterday's. Jordan pushed Marcus's wheelchair, with Pippen, Rodman, and Jackson walking alongside. Hospital staff and other patients lined the route, watching in amazement as basketball royalty passed by. In the children's ward play area, the usual toys and games had been cleared away. The portable hoop stood at one end, adjusted to a height that Marcus could reach from his wheelchair. Other patients from the children's ward had been invited to watch, their own wheelchairs and IV poles positioned around the makeshift court. "All right, Coach," Jordan said to Phil Jackson, "what's the game plan?" Jackson considered Marcus thoughtfully. "I think we start with fundamentals. Let's see the jump shot we've heard so much about." For the next 20 minutes, the champions of the basketball world focused entirely on an 11-year-old boy with leukemia. They passed him the ball, offered pointers on his technique, and celebrated each successful basket as though it were a game-winning shot in the NBA Finals. When Marcus made 3 shots in a row, Rodman, who had intimidated opponents across the league for years, cheered so loudly that a nurse poked her head in to check that everything was okay. "Sorry," Rodman said with an uncharacteristic blush. "Got carried away. Kids got game." Near the end of their allotted time, Jordan whispered something to Pippen, who nodded and approached Marcus's chair. "Think you could dunk?" Pippen asked with a wink. Before Marcus could answer, Jordan and Pippen had carefully lifted him from the wheelchair. With one basketball legend on each side supporting him, Marcus found himself being raised toward the basket. the ball in his hands. "Slam it home, champion," Jordan encouraged. Marcus pushed the ball through the hoop with all his strength, completing his first and only slam dunk. The room erupted in cheers, from his parents, from the other patients, from hospital staff who had found excuses to witness the moment. As they gently returned him to his wheelchair, Marcus was breathing hard, his face flushed with exertion, but his eyes shining. Dr. Patel checked his pulse with professional concern. "I think that's enough excitement for now," she determined. "Time to rest." Back in his room, Marcus was clearly exhausted but fighting sleep, unwilling to let the magical day end. The basketball legends gathered around his bed, each taking time to speak with him privately. Pippen shared stories about growing up in a small town in Arkansas, overcoming his own health challenges as a child. "I was the shortest kid in my family," he revealed. "Had terrible back pain. Nobody thought I'd play sports, let alone make it to the NBA. But here's what I learned, Marcus. Our bodies might have limits, but our hearts don't." Rodman, known for his wild public persona, showed a gentler side that few outside his closest circle ever witnessed. "People look at me and see the weird hair, the tattoos," he told Marcus. "They don't see the lonely kid I used to be. We all wear uniforms, Marcus. Some on the court, some in life. But what matters is who you are underneath that uniform." Coach Jackson, with his philosopher's approach to basketball and life, spoke to Marcus about the concept of the team. "In basketball, 5 players move as one unit," he explained. "In life, we're all part of something bigger, too. Your team is everyone who cares about you. Your parents, your doctors, nurses, friends, and now, us too." As the afternoon waned, Dr. Patel indicated it was time for the visitors to leave. Marcus needed rest, and his body was showing signs of the day's excitement. Before departing, Jordan sat alone with Marcus, while the others stepped out to give them privacy. "I want to tell you something important," Jordan said, his voice low and serious. "Tomorrow, I'm coming back, and I have one more surprise for you." "Even better than today?" Marcus asked, his voice weak, but his eyes bright with anticipation. "Much better," Jordan promised. "Something that will live beyond tomorrow. But you need to rest now. Get your strength back. Champions take care of their bodies, remember?" Marcus nodded, finally allowing his eyes to close. "I'll be ready," he whispered. "I know you will," Jordan said, gently adjusting the Bulls blanket around the boy's thin shoulders. As Marcus drifted to sleep, clutching his prized basketball card in its protective case, he felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Not just hope, but certainty. Michael Jordan had made a promise, and champions always kept their promises. That night, for the first time since his diagnosis, Marcus slept through the night without waking in pain. The nurses checking his vitals found him peaceful, his breathing steady, his face relaxed in dreams that, for once, weren't filled with fear. Dawn broke over Chicago, painting the hospital windows with soft pink light. Marcus awoke feeling different, refreshed in a way he hadn't experienced in months. The usual morning pain was present, but somehow less demanding, as if his body had found new reserves of strength. "You slept through the night," Elaine observed with surprise, already alert in her chair by his bed. The dark circles under her eyes betrayed her own lack of rest, the habit of watching over her son too ingrained to break, even on good nights. "I had good dreams," Marcus said, "about playing basketball with Mr. Jordan and everyone." Dr. Patel arrived earlier than usual for morning rounds, clipboard in hand, but her attention fully on Marcus rather than his chart. "Your numbers are improved," she said, genuine surprise in her voice as she checked the overnight readings. Blood pressure stabilized. Oxygen levels up. She placed her stethoscope against his chest, listening carefully. Breathing is clearer. 2. Robert, who had stepped out for coffee, returned to find the doctor smiling. A rare enough sight in recent weeks that he nearly dropped his cup. "What's happening?" he asked, looking between the doctor and his wife. "What's happening," Dr. Patel replied, "is something we in medicine call the hope effect. Sometimes, when patients experience something deeply meaningful to them, their bodies respond. The mind-body connection is powerful, especially in children." She turned back to Marcus. "You have another important day ahead. I'm adjusting your medication schedule again to give you more alert hours." News had spread throughout the hospital about the famous visitors from yesterday, and about Jordan's promise to return today. Staff who weren't scheduled to work had called in asking to switch shifts. The hospital gift shop had sold out of bulls. Merchandise by 9 a.m. At 10 o'clock, the hospital administrator herself appeared at Marcus's door, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Marcus," she said with forced casualness, "we thought you might be more comfortable in our larger recreation room today. Would that be all right?" Marcus nodded, understanding what wasn't being said. Whatever Jordan had planned required more space than his room or even the small play area could provide. By 11, Marcus was settled in the hospital's main recreation room, wearing his Bulls jersey over his pajamas and the new cap covering his thin hair. The room had been subtly prepared. Furniture rearranged, extra chairs brought in, the portable basketball hoop positioned prominently. Other young patients had been invited to attend, their wheelchairs and IV poles forming a semicircle of anticipation. At precisely noon, the elevator doors opened and Michael Jordan stepped out. Like yesterday, he wasn't alone. But today, the group behind him was even larger. Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman returned, along with coach Phil Jackson. But joining them now were other faces familiar to anyone who had watched the legendary Chicago Bulls teams of the 1990s. Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc, Ron Harper, Luke Longley, and more. The entire championship team had assembled, many flying in overnight, at Jordan's request. "The Bulls are back in town," Jordan announced as they entered the recreation room. "And we heard there's a young man here who might be our newest teammate." Marcus sat speechless in his wheelchair as his basketball heroes filed into the room, each stopping to greet him personally. The other children watching were equally awestruck, many too young to have seen these legends play, but well-versed in their mythology through parents and highlight videos. "It's finally good to meet the famous Marcus," Steve Kerr said, kneeling to shake his hand. "Michael says you've got a better jump shot than me, and that's saying something." Ron Harper presented Marcus with a small box. "Championship ring," he explained as Marcus opened it to find a replica of the Bulls' 1996 championship ring, sized for a child's finger. Only real champions get to wear these. Tony Kukoc had brought a ball signed by the entire Croatian national team. "From my home country to you," he said in his accented English. Basketball connects people across the whole world, as each player presented gifts and shared words with Marcus. The hospital staff watching from the doorway fought back tears. The other young patients were included too. Each Bulls player made sure to visit every child in the room, signing autographs and offering encouragement. Jordan, watching it all unfold, caught Dr. Patel's eye across the room and gave a subtle nod. She understood. This wasn't just about Marcus anymore. This was healing for everyone present. Coach Phil Jackson, ever the strategist, called the room to order. "All right, team, and I mean everyone in this room is part of the team today. We're going to do something special." At his signal, the Bulls players began rearranging the room. The portable hoop was positioned centrally, and chairs were moved to create a makeshift basketball court. First, Jackson announced a demonstration from the champions. What followed was a private basketball clinic unlike any other. The legendary Chicago Bulls, all older now but still graceful, demonstrated passing drills, shooting techniques, and even some of the famous triangle offense that had helped secure their championships. Steve Kerr showed the children proper shooting form, explaining the mechanics in simple terms. "It's all in the follow-through," he demonstrated, his famous accuracy still evident as the ball swished through the net. Dennis Rodman, his hair now natural gray instead of the wild colors of his playing days, taught rebounding fundamentals. "Position matters more than height," he explained, demonstrating how to box out players much taller than himself. For 30 minutes, the Bulls players rotated through stations, working with each child individually. When they reached Marcus, they spent extra time, each legend offering personal coaching. "You've got a natural feel for the game," Pippen told him after watching his form. "That can't be taught." Then came the moment that would be talked about for years in the halls of Mercy Children's Hospital. Jordan approached Marcus's wheelchair with a smile. "Ready for some one-on-one?" he asked. Before Marcus could respond, Jordan had lifted him from the wheelchair. But instead of setting him on his feet, Jordan hoisted the boy onto his shoulders. "Now we're the same height as Luke," Jordan joked, nodding toward the 7-foot-tall Longley. With Marcus riding on his shoulders, Jordan began to play. He passed the ball to Steve Kerr, who passed it back. Then Jordan handed it up to Marcus. "Take the shot," he encouraged. From atop the shoulders of the greatest basketball player in history, Marcus Davenport took a shot. The ball arced through the air, hitting the backboard and dropping through the net. The room erupted in cheers. For the next 10 minutes, Marcus became part of the legendary Chicago Bulls. Perched on Jordan's shoulders, he ran offensive plays designed by Phil Jackson himself. The other Bulls players defended at half speed, making it challenging but ensuring Marcus could succeed. When Marcus scored the game-winning basket, a perfect swish that surprised even Jordan, the Bulls players celebrated as if they just won another championship. Dennis Rodman performed his famous floor-slapping celebration dance. Kerr pumped his fist in victory. Phil Jackson even smiled, a rare sight familiar to anyone who had watched him coach during tense championship games. Finally, seeing that Marcus was tiring, Jordan carefully returned him to his wheelchair. But the surprise wasn't over. "Marcus," Jordan said, kneeling beside the wheelchair, "there's someone else who wants to meet you." The door opened, and in walked the current Chicago Bulls team, the players of today, still active in the NBA. They had come directly from morning practice, still in their training gear. "The past and present Bulls," Jordan explained, "together for the first time. All for you." What followed was a basketball fan's dream. The legends of the 90s Bulls dynasty interacting with the current team, sharing stories, comparing techniques, bridging eras of the sport. And at the center of it all was Marcus, no longer just a spectator, but somehow the reason for this historic gathering. As the afternoon continued, Marcus found himself surrounded by basketball royalty. They didn't treat him like a sick child, but like a valued member of their exclusive fraternity. They asked his opinions on games, respected his knowledge of statistics, and listened to his insights on current players. "The kid knows his basketball," Ron Harper commented to Elaine. "Better analyst than half the ESPN commentators." For a few magical hours, the hospital recreation room was transformed. The medical equipment faded into the background. The pain and fear that usually dominated these children's lives were temporarily forgotten. In their place was joy, excitement, and the kind of memories that sustain hope even in the darkest times. As Dr. Patel watched from the doorway, She made notes on her clipboard. Marcus's color was better. His energy, though clearly boosted by excitement, showed a stamina she hadn't seen in months. Most importantly, she saw something in his eyes that had been missing for too long: purpose. Sometimes, she whispered to a colleague beside her, medicine isn't just what we put in their veins, it's what we put in their hearts. As the Bulls players began saying their goodbyes, promising to return for future games, and sending invitations to visit team practices when Marcus was stronger, Jordan separated himself from the group. With a subtle gesture, he beckoned Dr. Patel into the hallway. Robert Davenport, noticing the exchange, followed them. "I want to talk about what happens next," Jordan said, his voice low and serious, the celebratory tone gone. Dr. Patel glanced at Robert, then back to Jordan. "Mr. Jordan, I appreciate everything you've done. Truly. It's been remarkable, but tomorrow he goes back to being a sick child," Jordan finished for her. "And all this becomes just a nice memory." Robert's shoulders slumped slightly. The harsh reality they'd briefly escaped came rushing back. "The prognosis hasn't changed," he said quietly. "That's what I want to talk about," Jordan replied. "I have an idea. Something more permanent than visits and autographs." He outlined his plan quickly but thoroughly, with the same strategic precision that had made him legendary on the court. As he spoke, Dr. Patel's expression shifted from polite skepticism to cautious interest. "It would mean breaking some hospital protocols," she said when he finished. "I understand that," Jordan acknowledged. "That's why I want to make a significant donation to the Children's Cancer Ward. New equipment, research funding, whatever you need most." Dr. Patel shook her head. "This isn't about money, Mr. Jordan." "I know," he said simply. "It's about Marcus, and the other kids too. I've seen how they've responded these past 2 days." Robert looked between them, trying to follow the conversation. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A special trip," Jordan explained, "one that would mean everything to Marcus." Back in the recreation room, Marcus was surrounded by Bulls players past and present, collecting final autographs and taking photos. Despite his obvious fatigue, he was animated, engaged in a basketball discussion with Steve Kerr about three-point shooting techniques. "He looks so alive," Elaine said to Scottie Pippen, who had stepped back to observe the scene with her. "That's what the game does," Pippen replied. "I've seen it my whole life. Basketball isn't just about putting a ball through a hoop. It's about belonging to something bigger than yourself." Jordan returned with Dr. Patel and Robert, their serious expressions. Contrasting with the celebratory atmosphere, Jordan whispered something to Pippen, who nodded and began helping the other players say their final goodbyes. "We'll see you soon, Marcus," Jordan promised, as the group prepared to leave. "But before that, I need to talk with your parents and Dr. Patel about something special, champion stuff." Marcus nodded, too overwhelmed and tired to ask questions. As the players filed out, each offering a final fist bump or handshake, the emotional weight of the day finally caught up with him. By the time he returned to his room, he was barely awake. "Get some rest, MVP," Jordan said from the doorway. "Tomorrow is another big day." After Marcus was settled, the adults gathered in Dr. Patel's office. Jordan sat across from the doctor's desk, with Elaine and Robert in chairs beside him. Carlos, Jordan's assistant, stood by the door, taking notes. "I want to take Marcus to the United Center," Jordan began without preamble. "Not just for a tour or to watch practice. I want him to play on the actual court." Elaine gasped softly. "But he's too weak for that. You saw him today." "We would manage everything," Jordan assured her. "Transportation, medical supervision, duration, everything on his terms, at his pace." Dr. Patel leaned forward, her medical training warring with what she had witnessed over the past 2 days. Marcus's condition is serious. His immune system is severely compromised. Taking him out of the hospital environment carries significant risks. And keeping him here, just waiting? Robert let the sentence hang unfinished. "I understand the medical concerns," Jordan said, "but I've also seen what these days have done for him. His energy, his appetite, his spirit, all improved. That has to count for something." Dr. Patel nodded slowly. "It does. The psychological impact of these experiences is undeniable, but it doesn't change the underlying disease." "No," Jordan agreed, "but it might change how he lives with it." The discussion continued for over an hour. Jordan proposed security measures, private transportation, medical staff accompaniment. Carlos presented a detailed plan they had developed overnight. "We've consulted with medical transportation specialists," he explained, showing Dr. Patel the arrangements on his tablet. "The United Center would be closed to everyone except essential personnel. We've coordinated with the Bulls team doctors to support your staff." Dr. Patel reviewed the plans with professional scrutiny, asking pointed questions about contingencies and emergency protocols. Gradually, her expression softened. "It could work," she admitted finally. "With strict limitations. No more than 2 hours total, including transportation, full medical supervision, and he returns at the first sign of distress. No negotiations." "Agreed," Jordan said immediately. Elaine and Robert exchanged looks, decades of marriage allowing them to communicate without words. The hope and fear, the desire to give their son this incredible experience against the terror of risking his fragile health. "What does this mean for Marcus long-term?" Robert asked quietly. Jordan turned to face them fully. "Beyond this special day, I'm establishing something more permanent, the Marcus Davenport Courage Fund. It will bring children with serious illnesses to Bulls games, provide financial support for their treatments, and fund research." "That's very generous," Elaine said. "But why our son? Why Marcus?" Jordan was silent for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "When I was at the height of my career, people called me a hero. The truth is, I was just playing a game I loved. Marcus, kids like him, they're facing real battles, real courage. I want to recognize that." He leaned forward, his expression intensely serious. "And, selfishly, meeting Marcus has reminded me of something I'd forgotten. The pure love of the game, the joy of it, separate from the business and the fame. Your son gave me that gift. I want to give something back." By the time they left Dr. Patel's office, darkness had fallen over Chicago. In the distance, the lights of the United Center, the house that Jordan built, glowed against the night sky. The plan was set for 2 days later, giving Marcus time to rest and the medical team time to prepare. That night, after Elaine and Robert had finally been convinced to go home for proper rest, with nurses promising to call at the slightest change, Marcus slept peacefully. The monitor beside his bed showed steady vital signs, stronger than they had been in weeks. In his dreams, he wasn't sick anymore. He wasn't in a hospital bed or a wheelchair. He was on the court at the United Center, wearing his Bulls jersey, the crowd chanting his name. And beside him, passing him the ball for the game-winning shot, was Michael Jordan. Not just his hero anymore, but his teammate. Across town, in his hotel suite, Jordan sat at the window reviewing the detailed plans for Marcus's upcoming visit to the United Center. The logistics were complex, the medical considerations extensive, but Jordan approached it with the same focus he had once brought to championship games. "Everything's confirmed for Thursday. Carlos reported, organizing the final details on his tablet. The current Bulls team will be there for the first hour, then clear out for Marcus's private time on the court. Medical transport is arranged. Hospital staff have approved the schedule. Jordan nodded, still looking out at the Chicago skyline. And the other thing? The bigger project? The foundation paperwork has been started, Carlos confirmed. The lawyers say we can fast-track it. The Bulls organization is fully on board. They're talking about a permanent section at the United Center dedicated to the program. Good, Jordan said simply. Carlos hesitated, then asked the question that had been on his mind since they'd arrived in Chicago. Why this kid, Michael? You've visited hospitals before, met hundreds of sick children. What's different this time? Jordan didn't answer immediately. He picked up his phone, scrolling to the photos taken earlier that day. Marcus on his shoulders, arms raised in triumph after making a basket. When I watched that news clip, Jordan said finally, I saw myself. Not the famous version, not the brand or the business. I saw the kid who just loved the game, pure and simple. He set the phone down, his decision made. Marcus Davenport won't just be a sad story that people forget. His name is going to mean something. It's going to help other kids like him. That's more important than any championship I ever won. 2 days later, the sun rose over Chicago, painting the city skyline in golden light. At Mercy Children's Hospital, preparations had begun before dawn. Dr. Patel arrived early to personally oversee Marcus's morning assessment. 2 specialized nurses had been assigned to accompany him for the day. A medical transport van with advanced life support equipment waited in the hospital's service bay. How are you feeling this morning? Dr. Patel asked, checking Marcus's vitals with practiced efficiency. Excited, Marcus replied, his voice stronger than it had been in weeks. A little scared, too. That's perfectly normal, she assured him. But remember our deal. You tell us immediately if you start feeling tired or unwell. No being brave about it. Promise? I promise, Marcus said solemnly. Elaine helped her son dress in his Bulls jersey, the one with Davenport printed across. The back, over comfortable sweatpants. The new Bulls cap covered his thin hair. Robert packed a small bag with medications, extra clothes, and Marcus's treasured basketball card in its protective case. Your chariot awaits, Nurse Gabriella announced at precisely 9 o'clock, arriving, with a wheelchair decorated with red and black streamers. As they wheeled Marcus toward the elevator, hospital staff lined the corridors, offering high fives and encouragement. Many wore Bulls colors in solidarity. Other young patients waved from their doorways, sharing in the excitement even if they couldn't join the adventure. Outside, the medical transport van stood ready, its back doors open to reveal an interior specially configured for Marcus's needs. A comfortable seat had been installed, rather than the usual stretcher, though oxygen and other emergency equipment remained within easy reach. Mr. Jordan sent this, the driver said, handing Marcus a small package as they settled him inside. Inside was a sleek black box containing wireless headphones with the Bulls logo and a note, Champions travel in style. See you soon. MJ. The drive to the United Center took 20 minutes, the van traveling carefully through Chicago traffic. Marcus wore his new headphones, listening to the Bulls' pre-game playlist that Jordan had loaded for him, his fingers tapping along with the rhythm. Look, Robert said as they rounded a corner. There it is. The United Center rose before them, its massive structure dominating the West Side neighborhood. On normal game days, it would be surrounded by fans and activity. Today, it stood eerily quiet, the plaza empty save for a small group waiting at a private entrance. As the van approached, Marcus recognized Michael Jordan standing with Carlos and several Bulls staff members. Behind them, the massive statue of Jordan in his famous flight pose, the spirit sculpture that commemorated his legacy, seemed to watch over the proceedings. "Welcome to your court, MVP," Jordan said, as the medical team helped Marcus from the van into a waiting wheelchair. Inside, the United Center was transformed. The normal bustle of vendors and staff was absent, creating an almost sacred silence. In the massive arena, their footsteps echoed as Jordan pushed Marcus's wheelchair down the tunnel that players used to enter the court. "This is where it happens," Jordan explained. "This is where you transform from regular person to gladiator. By the time you reach the end of this tunnel, you're not yourself anymore. You're something bigger." As they approached the court, light spilled from the arena into the tunnel, growing brighter with each step. Marcus leaned forward in his wheelchair, anticipation building. Then, suddenly, they emerged onto the famous hardwood of the Chicago Bulls. Marcus gasped. The full arena spread before him, 22,000 empty seats surrounding the gleaming court, with its iconic Red Bull logo at center. The championship banners hung from the rafters, including the 6 that Jordan had helped secure. The scoreboard displayed a welcome message. "Marcus Davenport, Day at the United Center." "What do you think?" Jordan asked softly. Marcus couldn't speak, overcome by the moment. His eyes took in every detail: the freshly polished floor, the perfect arcs of the three-point lines, the towering hoops that seemed both familiar from television and impossibly grand in person. "It's beautiful," he finally whispered. "And today," Jordan told him, "it's all yours." From a side entrance, the current Chicago Bulls team emerged in practice gear. They approached Marcus with respect, having been briefed on his condition and the importance of the day. "Honorary captain for today's practice," the head coach announced, presenting Marcus with a whistle on a Bulls lanyard. For the next hour, Marcus watched from center court as the professional players ran drills and scrimmages. Unlike a normal practice, they stopped frequently to explain plays, demonstrate techniques, and include Marcus in discussions. Jordan sat beside him, providing insider commentary that made Marcus laugh despite his fatigue. "They're about to run, the same play I used to torch the Knicks with," Jordan whispered at one point. "Watch the weak side screen." When the players broke for water, they gathered around Marcus's wheelchair, asking his opinions and treating him like a valued consultant. "What did you think of that last play?" one of the guards asked. "We've been having trouble getting the timing right." Marcus, discovering a confidence he didn't know he possessed, offered genuine basketball insights that the players listened to with respect. "The handoff is happening too early," he suggested. "The defender has time to recover. If you hold it..." "Another second," the player nodded thoughtfully. "Let's try it. Coach, can we run that again with Marcus's adjustment?" When they executed the play with Marcus's suggested timing, it worked perfectly, resulting in an open shot. The team erupted in cheers, surrounding Marcus with high fives. "Kid's got basketball IQ," the coach commented to Jordan. "You should hire him for the front office." After the team practice concluded, the players presented Marcus with a custom jersey signed by the entire roster. One by one, they said goodbye, heading to the locker room to give Marcus his private time on the court. The medical team checked Marcus's vitals, concerned about fatigue. But his readings were surprisingly strong, his excitement seemingly providing energy his body didn't normally have. "How are you feeling?" Dr. Patel asked, prepared to end the excursion at the first sign of distress. "Good," Marcus assured her. "Really good." When they were alone on the court, Jordan turned to Marcus with a smile. "Ready for that one-on-one game I promised?" Robert stepped forward, concerned. "Michael?" I don't think he can— Dad, Marcus interrupted, his voice stronger than it had been in months. I can do this. Please. Elaine and Robert exchanged looks, their parental instinct to protect warring with the knowledge that this opportunity meant everything to their son. Finally, Robert nodded. Just a few minutes, he agreed. With careful support from his father and one of the nurses, Marcus stood from his wheelchair. His legs trembled beneath him, weak from months of disuse, but determination showed on his face. Jordan bounced a basketball slowly, deliberately, giving Marcus time to find his balance. Your ball first, he said, passing it gently. What followed wasn't a real basketball game by any conventional standard. It was something more meaningful, a dance between a legend and a child, each movement carefully choreographed to protect Marcus's fragile body while honoring his spirit. Jordan defended at quarter speed, giving Marcus genuine opportunities to dribble and shoot. When Marcus's energy flagged, Jordan would call for a TV timeout, allowing him to rest without feeling defeated. The moment that would later be captured in a photograph displayed permanently at the United Center came midway through their game. Marcus, summoning strength from somewhere deep inside, managed a proper jump shot. His form was perfect. Elbow aligned, follow-through clean, just as he had practiced thousands of times on his mini-hoop. The ball arced through the air, rotating with surprising precision. Jordan watched its flight, a genuine look of anticipation on his face. When it swished through the net without touching the rim, Jordan reacted with unfeigned excitement, lifting his arms in celebration as if Marcus had just hit a game-winning shot in the NBA Finals. That's the best shooting form I've seen from anyone your age, Jordan said. And everyone present knew he wasn't just being kind. There was real admiration in his voice. The game lasted less than 15 minutes before Marcus needed to return to his wheelchair. But in those minutes, something magical had happened on the legendary court. A boy fighting for his life had been transformed, if only briefly, into what he had always dreamed of being. A basketball player, competing on the same floor where his heroes made history. As they prepared to leave, Jordan had one final surprise. He gathered everyone at center court, standing beneath the championship banners. Marcus, he said formally, I have an announcement to make. From his pocket, he withdrew an official-looking document with the Bulls logo at the top. This morning, the Chicago Bulls organization approved the creation of a new program. The Marcus Davenport Courage Fund will provide opportunities for children with serious illnesses to experience Bulls basketball. It includes tickets to games, special events with players, and financial support for medical treatments. Marcus stared at Jordan, stunned by this unexpected development. Additionally, Jordan continued, the program establishes the position of honorary captain of the Chicago Bulls children's team. The first person to hold this title is you, Marcus Davenport. He handed the document to Marcus, who took it with trembling hands. This isn't just for today, Jordan explained. This is permanent. Your name will always be part of the Bulls family now. Elaine couldn't hold back her tears any longer. Robert stood stoically beside her, his arm around her shoulders, his own eyes glistening. Why? Marcus asked quietly. Why me? Jordan knelt beside the wheelchair, bringing himself to Marcus's eye level. Because courage deserves recognition, he said simply. What you're doing every day, fighting, not giving up, that's harder than anything I ever did on a basketball court. Champions inspire others, Marcus, and you're a true champion. As they made their way back through the tunnel, preparing to return to the hospital, Marcus clutched the official document to his chest. His body was exhausted, but his spirit soared, higher than Jordan had ever leaped for a dunk. Thank you, he whispered, as they reached the exit where the medical transport waited. Jordan squeezed his shoulder gently. "No, Marcus. Thank you for reminding me what really matters." The local news crews that had gathered outside captured the moment as Marcus emerged from the United Center, flanked by his parents and Michael Jordan. The story would lead Chicago newscasts that evening, spreading across social media within hours. But Marcus didn't notice the cameras. He was looking up at the clear blue Chicago sky, thinking about basketball, about courage, and about how sometimes the most important victories happen far from any court. The return to Mercy Children's Hospital felt different somehow. As the medical transport van pulled into the service bay, nurses and staff had gathered to welcome Marcus back. Many held hand-drawn signs with basketball themes and messages of support. "Looks like you're a celebrity now," Dr. Patel said with a smile as they wheeled Marcus through the corridor. "Not me," Marcus replied, still clutching the official Bulls document. "The program. It's going to help lots of kids." In his room, exhaustion finally overcame excitement. Marcus fell asleep almost immediately, still wearing his Bulls jersey, the honorary captain's certificate resting on his bedside table. His parents sat vigil, watching the gentle rise and fall of his chest. "He looks peaceful," Robert whispered, taking Elaine's hand in his. "More than peaceful," she replied. "He looks like Marcus again. Our real boy, not just his illness." The local news coverage of Marcus's special day spread quickly. WGN, which had aired his original interview, devoted a full segment to the story. Tamika Johnson, the reporter who had first interviewed Marcus, provided an emotional update on his journey. "What began as one child's wish to meet his hero has evolved into something much greater," she reported, standing outside the United Center. The Marcus Davenport Courage Fund, announced today by Michael Jordan himself, will bring the magic of basketball to children facing serious medical challenges. By morning, the story had gone national. Sports networks picked it up first, then morning shows and major news outlets. The video of Marcus making a basket on the Bulls' court while Jordan celebrated as if it were a championship-winning shot went viral, viewed millions of times across social media platforms. At the hospital, gifts and cards began arriving, not just for Marcus, but for other children in the pediatric ward as well. Local businesses sent food for the nursing staff. The Chicago Bulls organization delivered team merchandise for every child in the hospital. 3 days after the United Center visit, Jordan returned to the hospital, this time with Bulls management executives and representatives from his foundation. They gathered in the hospital's conference room with administrators, Dr. Patel, and Marcus's parents to formalize the program. "We're allocating significant resources," one executive explained as they reviewed details. "Season tickets reserved, specifically for program participants, a dedicated suite at the United Center, transportation services, and financial assistance for families with medical expenses. The first beneficiaries have already been identified," Carlos added, displaying profiles of children from hospitals across Chicago. "With the Davenports' permission, we'd like to begin next week." Elaine looked at the faces on the screen. Children, like Marcus, fighting their own battles against illness. "Of course," she said without hesitation. "That's what Marcus would want." When the meeting concluded, Jordan visited Marcus's room. He found the boy sitting up in bed, energized despite the physical toll of recent days. Around him were other young patients from the children's ward, all listening intently as Marcus described playing basketball on the Bulls' court. And then Marcus was saying, "Michael Jordan, the real Michael Jordan, said my shooting form was perfect." "It was," Jordan confirmed from the doorway, drawing gasps from the children who hadn't noticed his arrival. For the next hour, the hospital room became a gathering place. Jordan sat on the edge of Marcus's bed, sharing stories and answering questions from all the children. Unlike his earlier visits, which had focused solely on Marcus, today Jordan made sure each child received individual attention. "Mr. Jordan signed my cast," one girl announced, proudly displaying her arm where Jordan had drawn a small basketball alongside his signature. He said, "I have point guard hands," a boy in a wheelchair declared, examining his fingers with newfound appreciation. As Jordan prepared to leave, he pulled Marcus aside for a private word. "The program launches officially next week," he explained. "We're taking 10 kids to the Bulls game on Friday night. I was hoping you might join us as honorary captain." Marcus's eyes widened. "Like, leave the hospital again?" "Only if Dr. Patel approves," Jordan clarified quickly. "And we'd have medical staff present. But yes, you'd be the first official representative of the program." When Dr. Patel was consulted, she reviewed Marcus's recent test results with cautious optimism. "His numbers have stabilized," she told his parents. "I can't explain it medically, but there's definite improvement. Not a reversal of the condition," she clarified, careful not to create false hope. "But better than we expected at this stage." "So he could go to the game?" Robert asked. "With proper supervision and precautions, yes," Dr. Patel conceded. "Short-term experiences like this seem to be beneficial for him, both physically and psychologically." The news spread throughout the hospital. Marcus's room continued to be a hub of activity, with other patients visiting to hear about the upcoming Bulls game and share in his excitement. He signed the basketball cards Jordan had given him and distributed them to the other children, creating his own version of trading cards. "You're giving them away?" Nurse Gabriella asked, surprised to see him parting with such treasured items. "That's what Mr. Jordan does," Marcus explained simply. "He shares the game with everyone." On Wednesday, a package arrived from the Bulls organization. Inside was a custom-made warm-up jacket with Captain Davenport embroidered across the back. A note from the team's equipment manager explained that all Bulls players would wear smaller versions of this patch on their uniforms for the remainder of the season. Local businesses joined the movement. A sporting goods store donated basketballs to the hospital's recreation room. A pizza place began weekly deliveries to the children's ward, calling it Captain's Night. A local artist painted a mural of Marcus and Jordan on a wall near the hospital, showing the moment they had shared on the Bulls court. By Friday, the day of the first official Marcus Davenport Courage Fund event, the story had expanded far beyond Chicago. NBA players from other teams sent video messages of support. Children's hospitals around the country reached out, asking how they might establish similar programs with their local sports teams. At 6 o'clock that evening, a small fleet of specially equipped vans arrived at Mercy Children's Hospital. 10 children with serious illnesses, each accompanied by a parent and a medical professional, were carefully loaded for the journey to the United Center. Marcus, wearing his captain's jacket over his Bulls jersey, led the procession. "This isn't just about me anymore," he told his parents as they prepared to leave. "It's about all of us." At the United Center, a dedicated entrance had been prepared. The area was equipped with medical stations, comfortable seating, and accommodations for wheelchairs and IV poles. Bulls players greeted each child individually. Before heading to warm up for the game, the group was escorted to a luxury suite that had been reconfigured to meet their medical needs. Large windows offered a perfect view of the court, while televisions displayed close-up action. Hospital-grade monitoring equipment stood discreetly in corners, with medical staff on standby. When the arena lights dimmed for player introductions, the announcer's voice echoed through the massive space. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Chicago Bulls are proud to introduce a new member of our family. Please welcome, in his official debut as honorary captain of the Chicago Bulls children's team, Marcus Davenport!" A spotlight found Marcus in the suite, projecting his image onto the massive screens above the court. 20,000 fans rose to their feet in a standing ovation that seemed to shake the building's foundations. Marcus, overwhelmed by the moment, waved shyly as the other children in the suite cheered for their captain. From courtside, Michael Jordan looked up at the suite and gave Marcus a thumbs up. This wasn't just a feel-good story anymore. It was the beginning of something lasting, a program that would continue long after today's headlines faded. In the suite, a local news crew was conducting brief interviews with the children. When they reached Marcus, Tamika Johnson asked, "How?" It felt to see his wish create such widespread impact. "It's not just about meeting Michael Jordan anymore," he said, his voice stronger than it had been in months. "It's about sharing the game with everyone who needs it. Basketball makes me feel better even when medicine can't. Now, other kids can feel that too." As the game began, Marcus settled into his role as captain. He explained plays to the other children, celebrated good shots, and helped distribute snacks that had been specially prepared to accommodate various dietary restrictions. His parents watched with pride as their son, despite his illness, found purpose in helping others. By the fourth quarter, many of the children were tiring. Medical staff monitored them closely, ready to arrange early departures if needed. But Marcus remained engaged, his energy sustained by the excitement around him. When the Bulls secured victory with a last-second shot, the suite erupted in cheers. The players, as instructed by Jordan, looked up toward the children and pointed in acknowledgement of their real fans. "This," Marcus said to no one in particular as they prepared to return to the hospital, "is even better than playing on the court, myself." In the days that followed, the Marcus Davenport Courage Fund expanded rapidly. Donations poured in from around the country. NBA players from teams other than the Bulls asked to participate. Children's hospitals nationwide inquired about establishing similar programs. At Mercy Children's Hospital, Marcus's room transformed into an unofficial headquarters. The walls were covered with photos from the Bulls game and letters from children hoping to join future events. A small basketball hoop, larger than his original mini version but smaller than regulation, had been installed for impromptu shooting practice. Most remarkably, Marcus began spending more time out of bed. Whether motivated by his new responsibilities or inspired by his experiences, he pushed himself to regain strength. With help from physical therapists, he practiced standing and even taking a few steps, always with the goal of shooting a basket. "His determination is extraordinary," the physical therapist reported to Dr. Patel. "He's setting goals for himself that have nothing to do with his illness." 1 month after Jordan's first visit, the fund sponsored its second event, a special Sabibinthi practice session at the Bulls training facility. 20 children from hospitals across Chicago attended, with Marcus once again serving as honorary captain. This time, Marcus arrived walking with assistance rather than in a wheelchair. Though he needed frequent rests and couldn't participate in all activities, the improvement was remarkable. "He's rewriting his own story," Elaine told Jordan as they watched Marcus demonstrate proper shooting form to a younger child. "Instead of being defined by his diagnosis, he's defined by what he gives to others." Jordan nodded, understanding completely. "That's the real legacy," he said quietly. "Not the championships or the records. It's what you leave behind that makes others better." As the Marcus Davenport Courage Fund continued to grow, its namesake faced the reality of his condition with a new perspective. The illness remained, with good days and bad. But something fundamental had changed. Marcus no longer saw himself as just a patient. He was a captain, a leader, a source of inspiration for others. And in that transformation lay the program's greatest gift. Not the experiences or the memorabilia, or even the financial support, but the power to help children see beyond their illnesses to the impact they could have on others. Sometimes, Marcus told a new patient who had joined the program, the best medicine isn't in the IV bags, it's in here. He pointed to his heart, echoing words Jordan had shared with him. Champions know that. 3 months after Michael Jordan's first visit, Marcus sat in a comfortable chair in Dr. Patel's office. His parents flanked him, hands clasped tightly together. The calendar on the wall showed it was mid-July, though the windowless office gave no indication of the summer sunshine outside. The tests are conclusive, Dr. Patel said, reviewing the folder in front of her. Her expression remained carefully neutral, giving nothing away. I've had 3 colleagues review the results independently. Marcus wore his Bulls captain jacket despite the season, the embroidered title across the back now slightly worn from frequent use. In the months since the program's launch, he had attended 6 Bulls games, visited 4 other hospitals as the fund's ambassador, and even thrown the ceremonial first pitch at a Cubs game. Another dream fulfilled through Jordan's connections. Throughout all this activity, his medical treatments had continued. The chemotherapy, the medications, the constant monitoring of his declining condition. There had been setbacks. A week in isolation when his white blood cell count plummeted dangerously low. Nights of pain so intense that even morphine provided little relief. But there had been unexpected bright spots, too. Days when his energy surged inexplicably. Improvements in appetite that nutritionists couldn't explain. Small gains that defied the usual trajectory of his disease. Before I discuss the results, Dr. Patel continued, I want to acknowledge something important. Marcus, your attitude these past months has been remarkable. The way you've focused on helping other children, on building this program, rather than dwelling on your own situation, it's been inspiring to our entire staff. Marcus nodded, accepting the compliment with the quiet dignity he had developed since taking on his captain's role. At 11 years old, he had experienced more of life's extremes than most adults ever would. Your involvement with the Courage Fund has been therapeutic in ways we can't measure medically, Dr. Patel added. The psychological benefits alone have been significant. But that's not why we're here today, is it? Robert asked, his voice tense with barely contained emotion. Something's changed. Dr. Patel looked down at the folder again, then directly at Marcus. Yes, something has changed, and I need you all to come with me to my office to discuss the results in private. The walk to Dr. Patel's office seemed endless. Elaine's mind raced through possibilities, each more devastating than the last. Had the cancer spread further? Was this the conversation they had dreaded since diagnosis? The one where time was measured in days rather than weeks or months? Inside the office, Dr. Patel closed the door and turned to face the family. Her expression was unreadable as she asked them to sit down. I've been practicing medicine for 22 years, she began. In that time, I've learned to be cautious with words like miracle. We doctors prefer terms like spontaneous regression or unexpected remission. But sometimes, she opened the folder, spreading several imaging scans across her desk. These are Marcus's scans from 3 months ago, before the Jordan visit, she explained, pointing to areas of brightness that even untrained eyes could recognize as abnormal. And these, she continued, revealing another set, are from yesterday. The difference was striking. Where bright patches had dominated the earlier images, the new scans showed significantly smaller, diminished areas. I don't understand, Elaine whispered, afraid to hope. What are we seeing? We're seeing a dramatic reduction in leukemic cells, Dr. Patel said, her professional composure finally giving way to a smile. Marcus's latest bone marrow biopsy shows a drop from 89% blast cells to 12%. Robert leaned forward. What does that mean exactly? It means, Dr. Patel said carefully, that Marcus is responding to treatment in a way we didn't expect. The cancer isn't gone, but it's retreating. Significantly. Am I getting better? Marcus asked, his voice small but steady. Dr. Patel knelt in front of his chair, meeting his eyes directly. Yes, Marcus. You're getting better. I can't promise what the future holds, but right now, yes, you're improving in ways we didn't think possible 3 months ago. The office fell silent as the news sank in. Elaine's tears came first, followed by Robert's muffled sob as he pulled his son into a tight embrace. Marcus remained still, processing the information with the same thoughtful intensity he brought to everything. Can I still be captain? He finally asked. Even if I'm getting better? Dr. Patel laughed, a sound of pure joy rarely heard in her office. Of course you can. In fact, I think this might make you an even more effective captain. You're not just bringing hope now, you're bringing possibility. The news spread quickly through the hospital. Nurses who had cared for Marcus since his admission stopped by his room throughout the day, some openly crying with relief. Other young patients and their families found renewed energy in the unexpected development. Nurse Gabriella, who had been with Marcus from his first days at Mercy, brought a small basketball-shaped cake to celebrate. I've been saving this for a special occasion, she said, her voice thick with emotion. This definitely qualifies. That evening, as Marcus sat in his hospital room surrounded by his parents and the medical team that had fought alongside him, for months, Dr. Patel asked a question that had been on everyone's mind. Would you like me to call Mr. Jordan with the news? Marcus considered this, then shook his head. Not yet, he decided. I want to tell him myself, at the right time. The next morning brought another surprise. The hospital administrator appeared at Marcus's door, looking uncharacteristically emotional. Marcus, she said, there's someone here to see you. Someone who doesn't usually make hospital visits. Before Marcus could ask who it was, a tall figure appeared in the doorway. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Behind him stood representatives from all 30 NBA teams, each carrying gift bags with their team logos. Captain Davenport, Silver said formally, extending his hand. The NBA has been following your story, and we wanted to come in person to tell you something important. For the next hour, the commissioner explained how the Marcus Davenport Courage Fund had inspired a league-wide initiative. Every NBA team would establish similar programs in their cities, creating a national network of support for children with serious illnesses. And we'd like you, Silver concluded, to serve as the national ambassador once you're well enough to travel. The meeting was brief, respecting Marcus's still delicate health, but its impact was enormous. As the NBA delegation departed, promising to return for a more formal announcement when Marcus was stronger, the boy turned to his parents with wide eyes. This is bigger than just me and the Bulls now, he said, grasping the significance. It's going to help kids everywhere. Later that day, as Marcus rested from the excitement, Elaine and Robert met privately with Dr. Patel to ask the question they'd been afraid to voice earlier. How is this possible? Elaine asked. 3 months ago, you told us to prepare for the worst. Dr. Patel considered her response carefully. Medically speaking, we can point to several factors. The new treatment protocol we started after his collapse has shown promise in some patients. Marcus's young age works in his favor for recovery. She paused, then continued more personally. But as a doctor who has seen many cases over many years, I believe there's more at work here. The human spirit affects the body in ways science is only beginning to understand. Marcus found purpose, connection, meaning. He stopped seeing himself as a dying child and started seeing himself as someone who could help others. "So, Michael Jordan's visit?" Robert began. "I won't call it a miracle," Dr. Patel said with a smile. "But I won't deny that something remarkable happened when Marcus found something to live for beyond his own survival." Outside in the corridor, Marcus sat in his wheelchair, having slipped away from his room while his parents talked with the doctor. He held his phone, scrolling through photos from the past 3 months. Images of himself with other sick children. At Bulls games, meeting players, always wearing his captain's jacket with pride. His finger paused on a particular photo, the 30th moment on the Bulls court, when he had made that perfect shot, and Jordan had celebrated as if it were a championship-winning basket. The joy in both their faces transcended the circumstances. It wasn't about a basketball legend and a sick child. It was about two people connected by something more fundamental, the pure love of the game and of life itself. Marcus smiled, putting away the phone. Dr. Patel and his parents emerged from the office, surprised to find him waiting. "I've decided when I want to tell Mr. Jordan the news," he announced. "At the fund's 3-month anniversary event next week. Face to face." For once, the adults didn't argue about whether he would be strong enough to attend. Something had shifted in their understanding of what was possible for Marcus now. As they walked back to his room together, Marcus taking careful steps with the assistance of a walker rather than using the wheelchair, he looked up at Dr. Patel with serious eyes. "Do you think," he asked quietly, "that I might be able to play real basketball someday? Not just shooting from a wheelchair or being carried to the hoop?" Dr. Patel placed her hand gently on his shoulder. "Marcus, I've learned never to underestimate you. But remember what you've been teaching other children these past months. Basketball isn't just about running and jumping and scoring. It's about heart." Marcus nodded, understanding completely. "That's what I'll tell him when I see him. That he was right all along. The most important part of being a champion isn't what your body can do. It's what your heart decides to do with whatever time you have." As they reached his room, the afternoon sun streamed through the window, illuminating the Bulls jersey hanging on the wall. The first gift Jordan had given him, now framed like the treasure it was. Beside it hung the official document establishing the Marcus Davenport Courage Fund, its gold seal catching the light. Marcus looked at these symbols of his journey, then at the latest scan images Dr. Patel had given him. Visual proof of the battle his body was now winning against all odds. "One more test tomorrow," Dr. Patel reminded him as she checked his medication chart. "Then we'll talk about a timeline for going home." "Home," Marcus repeated, the word feeling strange after so many months in the hospital. "Will I be able to come back and visit? To see the other kids?" "Of course," Dr. Patel assured him. "You're their captain, after all." As she left the room, Marcus settled into his bed, tired but content. Through his window, he could just make out the distant Chicago skyline where the United Center stood. Somewhere in that massive arena, a section was being prepared for the children who would benefit from the program bearing his name. Children who would find hope not just in meeting basketball stars, but in knowing that someone like them had faced the worst and found a way forward. Marcus closed his eyes, his hand resting on the basketball card in its protective case. The one Jordan had given him that first day, the talisman that had accompanied him through every treatment, every test, every moment of fear and pain. Whatever tomorrow's final test would reveal, whatever lay ahead on his journey, one thing was certain. Marcus Davenport was no longer just fighting to survive. He was living to inspire. 1 year later, The United Center was packed to capacity. Every seat filled, the crowd buzzing with anticipation. This wasn't a playoff game or a championship celebration, though the energy in the arena rivaled both. Tonight was the first anniversary of the Marcus Davenport Courage Fund, and people had come from across the country to witness its milestone celebration. On the court, a special basketball game was underway. Current Bulls players mixed with retired. Legends, all wearing jerseys with "Courage" printed where names would normally appear. They played alongside children from the program, some in wheelchairs, others using walkers, a few moving freely but bearing the visible signs of serious illness. In the front row, Michael Jordan sat with the Davenport family, watching the action, with the same intensity he once brought to championship games. Beside him, Marcus Davenport stood tall, no longer the frail boy in a hospital bed, but a 12-year-old in remission, his body rebuilding its strength month by month. "Look at that passing," Jordan commented, as a young girl in a wheelchair executed a perfect bounce pass to a Bulls player. "She's got court vision." Marcus nodded in agreement. "Jasmine practices that move for hours. She says she wants to be a Wagee coach someday." The past year had brought changes no one could have imagined when Jordan first walked into room 305 at Mercy Children's Hospital. Marcus's recovery, while not instantaneous, had progressed steadily. Each test showed improvement. Each scan revealed cancer in retreat. By Christmas, he had moved from hospital to outpatient status. By spring, he was attending school part-time. Throughout his recovery, the Marcus Davenport Courage Fund had grown exponentially. What began as a Chicago Bulls initiative had expanded nationwide. Every NBA team now ran similar programs in their cities. Over 500 children with serious illnesses had attended games, met players, and found moments of joy in the midst of their difficult journeys. 2 minutes left in the first half. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena. And now, a special moment as the honorary captain takes the court. The crowd rose to their feet as Marcus walked onto the basketball court that had once seemed like an impossible dream. He wore his Bulls jersey, the name Davenport bold across the back. No wheelchair this time, no assistance needed. His steps were sure and steady as he approached center court. A Bulls player handed him a basketball. Marcus bounced it once, twice, feeling its familiar texture. The court fell silent as he prepared to take a shot. Not from close range as he had during his illness, but from the three-point line, a distance that would challenge even healthy children his age. Marcus took a deep breath, positioned his feet, just as Jordan had taught him, and released the ball with perfect form. It arced through the air, rotating with textbook precision, and dropped cleanly through the net without touching the rim. The arena erupted. Players from both teams surrounded Marcus, lifting him onto their shoulders as if he had hit a game-winning shot. In the front row, Elaine and Robert embraced, tears flowing freely. Beside them, Jordan stood applauding, his usual competitive demeanor replaced by genuine pride. At halftime, a ceremony took center court. The NBA commissioner presented Marcus with a special award, the first-ever Courage in Sports medal, created to honor those who demonstrated extraordinary spirit in the face of physical challenges. The Marcus Davenport Courage Fund has raised over $10 million for children's cancer research, the commissioner announced to thunderous applause. More importantly, it has brought the joy of basketball to hundreds of children fighting serious illnesses across America. When it was Marcus's turn to speak, he approached the microphone with confidence that belied his 12 years. "A year ago," he began, his voice echoing through the silent arena, "I was dying. The doctors had told my parents to prepare for the worst. I couldn't walk, could barely sit up in bed. Basketball was just a dream I watched on a small screen in my hospital room. He paused, looking toward Jordan in the front row. Then, one day, Michael Jordan walked into my room. Not just to sign autographs or take pictures, but to really see me, to talk basketball with me like I mattered, to make me feel like a person, not just a patient. Marcus gestured to the children from the program seated courtside. What happened next wasn't just about me. It became about all of us. Kids fighting. Battles that make basketball games look easy. Because the truth is, courage isn't just found on basketball courts or battlefields. It's found in hospital rooms and treatment centers. In the hearts of people who keep going when giving up would be easier. The arena remained silent, hanging on every word from this young boy who had become a symbol of hope to so many. The doctors call my recovery a medical miracle, Marcus continued. They say they can't explain why the cancer started retreating so dramatically after months of getting worse. But I think I know the answer. He touched his chest, just above his heart. Mr. Jordan taught me that champions aren't people who never feel fear. They're people who feel the fear and do what needs to be done anyway. He taught me that the heart of a champion isn't measured by trophies or records, but by the impact you have on others. Marcus looked directly at Jordan now. What happened after Mr. Jordan visited me wasn't just about basketball or meeting my hero. It was about finding purpose bigger than my own survival. It was about discovering that helping others gave me a reason to keep fighting when my body wanted to give up. The medical staff from Mercy Children's Hospital, seated in a special section, nodded in silent agreement. Dr. Patel, who had overseen Marcus's treatment from the beginning, wiped away tears. I don't know what the future holds, Marcus acknowledged. The doctors say the cancer could come back someday, but I'm not afraid anymore, because now I know that whatever happens, my life has meaning. The Courage Fund will continue helping. Kids like me find joy and purpose in their hardest moments. He gestured to the banner being unveiled in the rafters, the Marcus Davenport Courage Fund emblem taking its place alongside championship banners and retired jerseys. This isn't the end of our story, Marcus concluded. It's just the beginning. Thank you, Mr. Jordan, for showing me that the most important championships aren't won on the court. They're won in the heart. As Marcus returned to his seat, the audience rose in a standing ovation that continued for several minutes. Jordan embraced him, whispering something only Marcus could hear. The second half of the game resumed, but the real victory had already been secured, not in points scored or games won, but in lives changed. Children who had once felt isolated in their illness now belonged to something larger than themselves. Parents who had faced their darkest fears now found community and support. Medical professionals who fought daily battles against disease now witnessed the healing power of purpose and connection. After the final buzzer, as the crowd began to disperse, Jordan and Marcus remained on the court. A photographer captured the moment, the basketball legend, and the boy whose courage had inspired a movement, standing together at center court, their shadows stretching across the hardwood floor. "Remember when you first visited me?" Marcus asked, as they walked slowly toward the exit. "I told you I just wanted to show you my jump shot before I went to heaven." Jordan nodded, remembering the interview that had first brought Marcus to his attention. "I think God had other plans," Marcus continued. "Maybe I wasn't supposed to show you my jump shot and then leave. Maybe I was supposed to stay and help other kids find their shot too." Jordan stopped walking, placing his hand on Marcus's shoulder. In his decades of fame, he had received countless accolades, broken innumerable records, and changed the very culture of basketball. But in this moment, looking at the healthy, confident boy before him, a boy who had faced death and emerged with a mission to help others, Jordan felt a different kind of accomplishment. "When people talk about my legacy," Jordan said quietly, "they usually mention championships and scoring titles. But this, what you've built, what you've become, this matters more." As they reached the arena exit, Marcus turned for one last look at the court where his journey had taken its most unexpected turn. The lights were dimming, the stands empty now, but the space still hummed with the energy of all that had transpired there. "Ready to go home?" Jordan asked. Marcus nodded, stepping confidently into the Chicago evening. Above them, stars dotted the sky, the same stars he had gazed at from his hospital window during those long nights of pain and fear. "You know what, Mr. Jordan?" Marcus said as they walked together toward the waiting cars. "I think the real miracle wasn't that I got better. The real miracle was that you showed up that day, that you saw me as more than just a sick kid, that you gave me a chance to be part of something that will help kids long after we're both gone." Jordan considered this, then shook his head with a smile. "No, Marcus, the real miracle was inside you all along. I just helped you find it." As they parted ways that night, the basketball legend and the boy whose courage had inspired a nation both understood a truth that transcended sport, fame, and even illness: that the most beautiful victories in life aren't measured in points or trophies, but in the hearts we touch and the legacy we leave for others. In hospitals across America, children wearing Bulls jerseys and Courage Fund t-shirts would sleep a little easier that night, knowing they weren't fighting their battles alone. In homes and communities touched by serious illness, families would find strength in knowing that even the darkest prognosis could sometimes yield to unexpected hope. And in Chicago, a boy named Marcus Davenport, once defined by his illness, now defined by his impact, would continue building the legacy that began with a simple wish to meet his hero, and ended with him becoming a hero to countless others. The basketball dream had come full circle, transforming from a child's last wish into a lifetime mission of courage, hope, and the enduring power of a champion's heart. Where are you listening from today? I'd love to know which part of the world this story has reached. If you enjoyed this story about Marcus and Michael Jordan's special connection, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspirational content, just like this. We share stories that remind us of the power of kindness and the resilience of the human spirit. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family. In a world that sometimes feels divided, stories of compassion and hope can bring us together and remind us of what truly matters. By sharing, you help spread awareness about childhood cancer and the importance of programs that bring joy to children facing serious illnesses. Thank you for listening. And remember, just like Marcus discovered, sometimes the most beautiful victories happen far from any court or field, in the quiet moments when we choose to make a difference in someone else's life.